All right, so our
Okay.
presenter again is Sanchez.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so I'm be talking about some of my current research, which is blocking spam by separating end user machines from legitimate server machines. So, what I'll go over the motivation and background of my study, the methodology for classifying machines that I've used, some performance evaluation, and a quick summary. So we are all familiar with spam. We're probably annoyed about it, and we know the problems, security that involves that, not just by getting a lot of messages on our inboxes, but also the fact that it's been used for sending in malware or stealing user information. So it's becoming a big problem. And over the years, there's been an arms race between the spam control community and spammers, who every time that there's a new filter, a new solution for spam, they find a new way to work around and deliver message to users. And one of those reasons is the fact that we get so many messages as spam right now, and the amount of spam has grown so much on the internet. And one example of this arms race is at the beginning, spammers used to directly send spam from their servers, but these servers started to be blocked and be listed publicly. So spammers had to move to third-party servers or use third-party machines that were open to forward email from any domain to another domain, which are open relays. Eventually, these open relays started to be better handled by operators. They will not allow their servers to act as open relays, and also were blacklisted. So spammers have to move to a bigger infrastructure, which are spamming bots. So basically infecting machines, compromising machines, usually on home users or high-speed home networks, and use these machines to send spam. So this gives spammers a very big number of machines that they can use, and blocking each one, listing each one of these machines is very hard, and detecting each one is also a big problem, because each machine has to send 1 or 2 messages, and until these fires are flagged that this machine is spamming, it takes a long time. And in fact, over 80% of spam has been reported to come from botnets. There are several studies that have reported similar numbers. So our objective is, upon a connection to our server from any machine, we want to be able to know if this machine is likely to be an end user machine, which is probably compromised, because it shouldn't be sending any email directly to our server as recipient, or if it's in fact a legitimate server. But we don't want to have to list each machine or each home user machine or end user machine manually. We want to be able to just receive the connection and be able to guess if that machine is likely to be an end user machine. So for this purpose, we use support vector machine classification. As I mentioned before, SVM basically tries to classify elements into 2 categories based on a previous training set. So for our system, we use a very small number of features, it's 53. And these features, the important thing is that are features that the spammer, even if they compromise a machine, they cannot change or modify these kind of features. For example, the operating system, a spammer cannot modify the operating system without the user detecting that. The other features are based on the reverse DNS name of the machine. That is also something a spammer cannot have access to control, because normally the reverse DNS will be controlled by the service provider of the user. So the spammer, even if they compromise the machine, they will have to compromise the ISP servers and be able to modify these names. So for our study, we use several data sets. The first one is a set. We collected mail server logs from FSU. We got the cooperation from them from FSU to get a copy of the mail servers. And from these servers, we extracted the list of domains that have sent messages to FSU. And we selected those domains, the set of domains that send mostly legitimate messages, that the ratio of the spam ratio that they have is very low. Using these domains, we manually find the MX records and the SPF record for those domains to extract the machines that are publicly announced as legitimate servers for those domains. And we manually fingerprint these machines. So this was kind of tedious work. We also got a spam trace collected from people from University of Minho in Portugal. This is a spam trap that they set in the US, and for every connection they got, they also include a fingerprint of the machine connecting and a membership if that machine was listed or not in one of 8 public DNS blacklists. These two sets give us a collection of, from these two sets we extract a collection of legitimate mail servers from the first one, and a collection of end user machines, or likely end user machines from the spam trap. This is our main set of study.
I'm curious, I don't know if maybe I missed it. How did you determine the OS fingerprint in the second case? You said the first case you...
The first one we use Nmap is active fingerprinting.
Does it like mess with the TCP stack and try and figure out how it responds?
Yeah, basically that. But usually active fingerprinting is not that accurate, so there might be some errors there. For the second one, there's a tool called PF0. It basically, with one connection, on the TCP connection, you have all the information about the timeout, the size, the window size, and all that. So there's fingerprints based on that to know the
default OS settings.
Yeah,
essentially.
So it's actually a common use and a common method to take, but you need the other side to request the connection for passive fingerprinting. So that's what they use in that one. The third one is a public spam archive called Untravel. It's actually a very large archive. The only problem is that this archive only has the raw messages. It doesn't have any information about the operating system or the blacklist membership of the sending machine. Okay, so to have an idea of how we measure the performance of our system, we have three metrics. One is the accuracy, which is the percentage of correctly classified machines. That means how many legitimate servers were classified as legitimate servers and how many end-user machines were classified as end-user machines. False positive is the percentage of legitimate mail servers classified as end-user machines. This percentage is in reference to the total number of legitimate mail servers, not the total number of machines. The false negative is the percentage of end-user machines classified as legitimate mail servers. Our main goal is to have a high accuracy with a low false positive rate. False negative, well, it will be nice to have it low. It's not as important as having it's not as important as having a low false positive, because that means with the false positive means that we may be blocking legitimate mail servers, and we want to avoid that. So on our test, the first test is kind of simple. We just combine the two sets, the end-user machine and the legitimate mail servers. we randomly sample 1/3 from that to use as a training, and we use the other 2/3 for testing. And it's actually turns to be a really good classification system with our features. We have an accuracy of 99.27%, which means basically all our machines were correctly classified. And the false positive rate is very low. These errors also are because of a little bit the ad hoc mechanism that we use to get the names for legitimate mail servers and then user machines. So that's still something that can be manageable. So we are not just interested in how well our system performs, but how competitive it is against current mechanisms. And we compare with the blacklist membership from the spam archive from Portugal. And we check the detection rate. This is basically the percentage of end user machines that were correctly detected, either by a blacklist or our system. And our system really does much better than any other blacklist. Probably the only one that gets close is the Sen spam house. This blacklist is the only one that contains some kind of proactive mechanism, at least from what they say about the list. Part of the list is a set of blocks of addresses that ISPs have announced to be their customers. So because of time, I originally planned to be shorter the presentation, so I didn't include all the information. But we checked how features affect the performance. So if we use more features, if we use just a small set of our feature set, or if we use all the features, how that affects our classification. And actually, even with just the top 10 features, the most relevant features, calculated by a tool called F-score, that is used for calculating the weight of features on an SVM classifier, we already get an accuracy of over 95%. And finally, we also wanted to investigate if we train, for example, let's say a spam house wants to use our system. So they will have one training set that they used to originally train the system. But any other domain should be able to query that list and check if the connection should be classified as end user or legitimate mail server. So we trained our system the same way with the first combination of the two sets, the end user machines from Portugal and the legitimate mail servers from FSU, and we tested how well it performs when testing against the data set from Untravel. And even that the two sets are completely different domains, different recipients, still we are able to get an accuracy of over 91%, which is also pretty good. Okay. So basically, just to summarize all, we have developed a system to effectively classify between end user machines and legitimate mail servers, with the idea that most end user machines sending an email are compromised machines that are definitely should be blocked, while we can allow legitimate mail servers to still perform well and not be blocked. Our features it's a small set of features, but that can an attacker don't have or at least cannot have easy access to control them. Like I said, the spammer cannot infect the machine and change the operating system without the user noticing it. And we've tested again against real-world traces, which show that it's actually a plausible system, and a very effective system on the internet today. Any questions?
So the basic premise of your work was that most spam should not come from end user, or most good email should not come from end user machines.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great premise. You did mention you got some false positives along the way.
Yeah.
And a false positive would be you detect something as spam even though it's not. Right?
You detect a machine as a spam or as an end user not.
False positive is a legitimate mail server detected as
spam.
As an end user.
As end user, yeah.
Okay.
Not
Oh,
necessarily
as an end
specifically
user.
a spammer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just curious in your false positives, if you've ever run into anybody, say, legitimately having SendMail installed on their machines and legitimately sending mail directly from an end user machine.
There is the case. I mean, it's not that people you can just set up your own mail server on your home computer and run your own domain there.
Or even say from a university, say one of the university servers, but it might have a DNS name that looks like an end host DNS name perhaps.
Like, did you look at the actual data from the false
Oh, you mean for the false positive? Yeah, those are actually most of them. At least looking at the domain name, they look like home users. That's also because our source for legitimate mail servers are looking for the SPF records or the MX records, so they can point to those kind of servers. But ideally, we shouldn't see those machines sending messages. What is recommended actually is if you're running on a dynamic IP address, you normally should relay on your service provider to send the email. So you shouldn't be sending directly.
Most of the time it's against terms of service anyhow.
Yeah, and most people even try to block them anyway.
So you showed the accuracy as compared to like Spam House, like Zen Spam House, and a few of the other ones. What about the false positive rate for those guys, or those are?
Well, we
only
cannot. They only say for end users machines. So in this case, they don't you cannot really find a false positive
Right.
for
Isn't
them.
like Spam House done empirically? Like if someone's been detected to be a spammer in the past, they put it on the list. So
They have different mechanisms for that.
Yeah.
I think the XBL, one of these, the SVL and the XBL, those are the list open relays. So it's basically known that somebody's acting as an open relay. Also exploits that have machines that are detected that there's some exploit has been used on that machine. And that's one of the problems that I was mentioning. Many of the blacklists depend on a large number of messages coming from that machine to actually say, okay, this is a spammer, or this machine is acting as a spammer, before they actually list. So our system, we don't need, it could be the first message that the machine sends, and you already know if that machine should be sending or not. You can.
One thing that this kind of made me realize was that, well, since ISPs already know who the end users are, it'd be really easy to add like a DNS record that says this person is not allowed to send mail ever. You know?
They should, and the problem is that they don't.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of the things, it's said that they try to block port traffic on port 25,
Right.
but that's still expensive, so
Yeah.
they don't really do that. The other thing is still a large number of providers have at least given the ranges of their clients to a spam house. You can still have that, but
Right.
it's not really complete.
Right.
Um,
Well, because they're always adding and removing IPs to their.
All right, I'm cutting you off.
yeah.
All right, let's give our presenter a round of applause.